in Syria. Melissa, back to you.
Mike, thank you.
Yeah.
Breaking news this morning, former FBI Director James Comey firing back at President Trump during his first live interview since the launch of his new tell-all book. Comey calls the firestorm of recent tweets an example of how Mr. Trump misunderstands or disrespects the rule of law. Meanwhile, some lawmakers are questioning Comey's credibility.
Mr. Comey misled the American people in both investigations, the Clinton and the Trump investigation. With Clinton, he's at the urging of the Attorney General, calls the Clinton investigation a matter, not an investigation, when everyone knew it was an investigation. And then with President Trump, he allows the country to believe the president is under investigation when in fact he wasn't, and had been told by James Comey that he wasn't. So I think this guy just messed everything up from the get-go, and frankly, I think he doesn't have a whole lot of credibility.
Let's bring in Saagar Enjeti, White House correspondent for the Daily Caller. Saagar, it's interesting. I mean, James Comey was always seen as kind of a white hat guy in Washington. He was the lawman, the respected lawman. But some of what's come out as a result of his book and his book tour seems to, I don't know, stain that image a little bit.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm hearing from, the many FBI veterans who worked with James Comey for over 25 years. They've overwhelmingly said, I loved working for Jim Comey. I respected him while he was in the office. And they even, they defended him while in the Clinton email investigation. But they are saying that a bridge too far is this time. And with Director Comey's comments about the president's personal appearance, the tanning goggles, the length of his tie, several of the FBI veterans I talked to, very high-level people in the senior executive service, said that is just demeaning to the director of the FBI, that it stokes deep state conspiracies, and that overall it damages the FBI brand, and it makes Director Wray's job of recovering credibility for this bureau even harder at this moment.
But Comey says he's just kind of trying to take people inside the room and give them the flavor of these high-level discussions.
Right, exactly. He's saying that he wants to sell books, essentially, by taking swipes at the president. I thought it was interesting that, he didn't take us into the room in such vivid detail with President Bush and President Obama. Anytime that people have said that he's sniping at President Trump here, he says, I am only showing you my experience with 3 different presidents, and with the first 2 as an example of his so-called ethical leadership, and President Trump as somebody who's standing against that. But it's quite clear that Director Comey has developed a deep personal animus towards President Trump, and you see that in the type of rhetorical flourish that he uses in his book.
And you do have to wonder, with somebody like Christopher Wray or any FBI director to come, you have to wonder what the effect is going to be on the high-level conversations that they might have with a president or an attorney general.
One of the most senior people that I talked to from the FBI said that the most shocking thing from Director Comey's book is his willingness to disclose in detail his private conversations with the President of the United States. And what's so concerning about that is that the President must be assured that his conversations with senior members of the intelligence services are not going to leak, in that he needs to be able to ask the difficult questions. He needs to be able to look at the intelligence and ask probing questions, and not ensure that they're going to be memorialized in such vivid detail to include the eye goggle tan underneath his eyes. This does make it more difficult probably for every member of the senior intelligence service who has to interact with the president on a daily basis.
And there's not only what's in the book, but he's launched on this tour, the book tour, and who knows what's going to come out in the coming days.
That's right. I mean, he's got several interviews lined up. He's selling out auditoriums with, I hear, about $800 a ticket. And so this is not going away anytime soon. I'm sure that the president will be lobbing several shots across his bow, as he did on Twitter, yesterday, in which he said that Director Comey and former Deputy Director McCabe had committed many crimes, which Director Comey took exception with this morning.
Saagar Enjeti, White House correspondent at the Daily Caller. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Fox News alert: President Trump playing host